Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is Bronson with Nighthawk Equity. Very excited you joined us today. I'm here with Michael Blanc, the CEO of Nighthawk Equity, as well as Drew Niffen, the president of Nighthawk Equity. And today we're going to talk about inflation. And I wanted, Michael, can you talk for a minute about inflation in regards to the stock market versus multifamily?
Well, so inflation is a real thing, and so we've actually had an average of 1.6% inflation over the last 10 years. And in fact, if you go on the Federal Reserve website, their target inflation rate is actually, in fact, 2%. They publish this, which means that this, by the way, put this in your pipe and smoke it. They want to devalue your savings by 2% every single year. That's their goal. I want to make your savings account, everything you own, worth 2% less every single year. So if that doesn't get you ticked off, it should. But let's talk about it now that I calm myself down. So let's talk about that. So that means then, as my savings or my stock portfolio is presumably rising, I have this 2% that's actually reducing my purchasing power. And what that does is actually, if you apply that to whatever stock portfolio you have over a 15-year period. So for example, over the last 15 years, from 2004 to 2018, the average return was 7% of the stock market, the S&P 500. If you actually apply a 1.6% inflation to that, it takes it from 7% down to 5%. Holy cow, I can buy 2% less beer with my money after 15 years. So that really, really upsets me. Now, the good news about this is that multifamily is a fabulous hedge against inflation. Drew, do you have any thoughts about why do I say that multifamily is a great hedge against inflation?
Yeah, sure. So the definition of inflation is the rising cost of a basket of goods, right? So the average stuff that a person buys goes up in price. What's the biggest expense that most people have in their everyday life? It's their housing, right? So when inflation goes up, it means that the cost of housing is going up. Well, guess what? We are buying housing. We are buying the thing that's going up in price. So our revenue stream is going up because inflation is allowing us to charge more money, right? At the same time, our biggest expense per month on our profit and loss statement is our mortgage payment. Well, guess what? Our mortgage payment is fixed. Our mortgage payment, it doesn't move. So the dollars coming in is going up, but the dollars going out, at least for the biggest item, is the same. So the inflation actually helps the multifamily investors. So that's one of the primary reasons that we think that this is a great asset class. If a concern that you have is, hey, maybe the Fed has a big budget deficit, maybe we have a giant debt and inflation is going to be the way out of it, then this is a good place to be.
I totally agree with you. When you said it, 2% inflation is great when you have debt, right? Because it makes your debt 2% worth less every single year. But this is great. In fact, I did some light math on this, Drew and Brunson. You'd be interested to know that a 2% inflation rate directly results in a 10% return on equity. Like, I don't want to bore you with the details. I heard this in the real estate guys. They did it on the summit that we did, and I couldn't believe it. I ran the math on this myself. But sure enough, a 2% rise in rent due to inflation results in a direct 10% return on equity, assuming you're putting like 20% down. So not only are you getting it, and that doesn't even count the debt, Drew, what you were saying. So not only are you getting a 10% return on equity, you're also making your debt worth less. So if you're concerned about inflation, which everyone should be, yeah, you don't want to have your money in a bank account. My argument is you don't want a stock portfolio either. And if you were concerned about that, then multifamily is a great hedge against that.
Absolutely. Well, the question really comes now is, what are you doing about inflation? And what are you doing to educate yourself about hedges against inflation? So what we're all about at Nighthawk Equity is we're about increasing capital. We're about preserving capital. And really, inflation is something that steals that. So if you get into multifamily properties, that's a way you can protect yourself against that. If you haven't already done so, go to nighthawkequity.com, check out our Nighthawk Investment Club, which is basically where we have pre-vetted deals that we've worked with, and we have investors we develop a relationship with. And if you would like to be a part of that, please go ahead and take a look at that, and we'll connect with you. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.